love the weekends, especially Saturdays. Now, no, I'm not talking I love them just because I don't have school. I personally really love school, but the reason I love going out on the weekends is because me and my dad will wake up early and go to the farm. These are one of my favorite things that I love to do. And we do it every single weekend if possible. Now, when we talk about the farm, I love it so much. But when we talk about it in the winter, it's not always the best. Sometimes you have to stand outside in a field and it gets really cold. And on those days, I love going to my house, walking into a warm, cozy house, sitting under a blanket with the heater on. Now, this doesn't sound anything bad, but when you think about it, the main thing that's heating your house is fossil fuels. And when we talk about fossil fuels, they are very bad for many reasons. And most people, when they think about the heat in their house, they're not thinking about this topic. They're just thinking, nice, warm house, I love it. But fossil fuels should be in consideration when thinking about this. This brings us to the question, should we eliminate subsidies for fossil fuels? I would have to say yes, for my 3 areas of analysis. First, we could spend more money on other things if we were to get rid of these subsidies. Second, fossil fuels are awful for the environment. And finally, fossil fuels have a ton. They take up a ton of resources when we make them. So, on to our first point, we can spend more money on other things. So first of all, what are subsidies? Subsidies are money granted by the government to businesses or industries, so the price of the commodity for consumers is still low. Now, when we talk about spending more money on other things with subsidies, this is something that we want to look forward to, because if we can spend more money on other things other than fossil fuels, that will be so beneficial. So according to Forbes in 2019, June 20th, we spent 10 times more on fossil fuels than anything else, especially education. And when we talk about this, there are so many things in our budget that saying this is 10 times more than anything else, that is saying a lot. The Guardian also states in 2020 of October that just 10% of fossil fuel subsidies, if we were to get rid of them, we could fuel the transition for more green energy. Now, green energy can be expensive, but saying that only 10% we need to get rid of that subsidy to do that is incredible, and that just shows you how much money we spend on fossil fuels. Because fossil fuels can be very expensive, but when we look at green energy, the transition to that would also be expensive but beneficial in the long run. So secondly, fossil fuels are awful when it comes to talking about our environment. The Northern Express on January 23rd of 2020 states, we have 207,000 miles of liquid pipeline on average. And this is a lot of pipeline, and anything could go wrong at any minute with these pipelines, and that's why it's so dangerous. And on average, as it goes on to say, about 300 pipeline accidents have happened. And when you say that out loud, that number doesn't seem bad, but the impact that they've had is so bad, especially when we look at how it's doing that to the environment. And when it happened, most of them, they spilled about 3 million gallons of crude on it. And that is a lot. Not to mention that also, when you spill that much, it also takes a lot of money to get that back, which also takes another resource from us, money. It takes so much money for us. And for the environment, fossil fuels in general hurt the environment already. When we talk about the ozone layer, Fossil fuels deplete it so heavily. So more fossil fuels will not help this situation. And the ozone layer is so beneficial for many reasons, especially for humans. Some benefits are it saves us from the sun. And without our ozone layer, we do not want to see how disastrous that would be. Because without our ozone layer, a lot of things would amount to nothing, and we do not want that to happen, because that is something that we don't even want to imagine happening. So getting rid of these fossil fuels subsidies would help. It would help the reduction of fossil fuels, which helps in return our environment, and it also helps ozone layer depletion, which is something we really want to see. And finally, fossil fuels take up a ton of resources. According to Northern Express on January 13 of 2017, in the process of making fossil fuels, it requires 2 to 6 million gallons of water. This is a lot of water, especially when we're just putting this to fossil fuels. They also go on to say that it costs a ton of money, especially when something goes wrong. So, like I said earlier, 300 accidents have happened. And this is just showing you that these accidents cost a ton of money, which gets rid of another resource that is very important to us. So that's something we don't want to do. And breaks can cost up to $5 billion. Like what I said, like I'll restate again, is a lot of money wasted. So let's go back around. This brings us back to the question of, should we eliminate subsidies for fossil fuels? I would have to say yes. We can spend more money on other things. Fossil fuels are bad for the environment, and fossil fuels take away a ton of resources. So next time you're in your house, think about how, in the warmth, think about how bad that actually can be.